Feel ready to jump into a new adventure? Great! As promised, today we will look at the solution for the jiggle effect when a user enters an invalid input. We will also cover the creation of a pop-up using JavaScript. Without wasting more time, let's get started. Let's first look at the requirements. Inside the HTML, let's add the required attribute to the inputs. This prevents the form from being submitted if those fields are empty or don't meet certain conditions. For the name input, we add an extra attribute called pattern. This defines the format of our input. For the email, validation is automatic once we add the required attribute. It will check for a valid email upon submission. Now, let's add some invalid data inside any field and style it. In CSS, we will target the input when it is not focused, contains text, and is invalid. Then style it accordingly. Don't forget the label, okay? For the animation, we add the CSS property called animation to the input. This will animate our element every time the CSS rule set containing it is triggered. To create our animation, we use the keyframes rule to control the animation steps. We write @keyframes followed by the name of our animation. Then inside the curly braces, we define how the element should be animated. And there you have it. Now, let's move on to the pop-up. First, let's understand how it works. Just like the menu, we have three key elements: the opener, the pop-up element, and the closer. This time, the closer will be inside the element. Since we will set the position of the pop-up to fixed, where we place the code inside the HTML doesn't really matter. However, for clarity, let's wrap all our elements inside a div. This may allow us to style the body differently when the pop-up is open, but that would be for another video. We will place the pop-up under the div separated with a comment. Our pop-up has two children, the backdrop and the content. Now let's style the pop-up in the close button. The opener can be any button or menu item we already have on our website. The key to a pop-up is setting its position to fixed, defining its width and height, and adjusting its z-index. The design is then up to you. Now, in JavaScript, let's target all the elements we need to interact with. The logic is simple. When the pop-up is triggered, we bring it to the front, showing the backdrop first, then the content. When closing, we animate the content out first, then the backdrop, and finally push the pop-up far behind by lowering its z-index. So we need to target at least 5 elements: the opener, the pop-up div, the backdrop, the content, and the closer. This time, instead of attaching the event in the HTML, we will handle everything inside JavaScript. To do that, we select our element followed by a dot and add event listener, the event, and last the function or the action. For the event, inside HTML we write onClick. Inside JavaScript, we remove the prefix on. Let's test the closer button first. Now let's add a class called hide pop-up content to the content and style it accordingly. Before returning to JavaScript, we remove the class hide pop-up content. Back in JavaScript, instead of console logging, we target the pop-up content and add the hide class whenever the close button is clicked. Now, test it. To retest, you need to refresh the browser. Now, do the same with the backdrop. Create a hide backdrop rule set and style it accordingly. If you notice, after the backdrop and content are gone, we can't interact with the website. Do you know why? Pause the video and write your answer in the comments. The reason is that the pop-up is still there. We need to send it to the back by decreasing its z-index, but we must wait until the animation for both the backdrop and pop-up content is finished. We can delay this action using setTimeout. This function takes a duration in milliseconds and executes a function after that time. Our delay here will be the duration of the animation transition, 300 milliseconds. Now, save and try it. I was tempted to leave the opener to you since this video is getting long, but let's finish what we started. The concept is the same, just reversed. This time, we don't need any delay. Why can I scroll when the pop-up is shown, you say? Fixing that is for another video. In the next one, we will stick to JavaScript and add an image slider to make our website more interactive. For now, stay safe and keep learning.